Hey everyone! It's been said that every quilt tells a story, and it's so true. But I also believe every quilter has a story to tell. I wanted to hear about the people behind these wonderful quilts and thought you'd enjoy hearing about their lives also. Welcome to A Quilter's Life. If I give someone a quilt and it makes them cry, then I've done my job. This was the statement Elizabeth Redmon made as she shared how she has made memorial quilts for many that have lost loved ones. I can't even imagine taking on these amazing projects. It was such a joy to visit with Elizabeth. Thanks for joining me on A Quilter's Life, Elizabeth.
Well, thank you for having me.
Where were you born and raised?
I was originally born in Portland, Maine. I was raised in Portland, Maine. I lived there for 26 years before I moved to the state of Tennessee.
What moved you from Maine to Tennessee?
Well, I was recently divorced when I left Maine, and I left Maine during a really bad economy period. So I had interest in moving to three places I was choosing from. One was Tennessee, one was Florida, and one was Texas. So I started with Tennessee. I moved to the Nashville area and got a job at Opryland Hotel within 2 days of moving to Nashville. And I stayed there, and I've been here in Tennessee 26, almost 27 years now.
Wow.
Yep.
I'm going to jump back here for a minute. You grew up in Maine. Do you have a special memory of something when you were growing up?
Oh gosh, yes. My dad, he passed away now, but he was one of the most precious people, of course, in my life, and he had beehives. He had bees while I was growing up, and I loved going out there and helping him with his bees, and everywhere he went, I went with him. I was his shadow, and like I said, he's passed away now, and that's just such a sad miss. I miss him so bad. But, yeah. No, matter of fact, I thought about having bees myself, keeping bees myself, but have not started it yet. That would just be another hobby that I would have to get into.
We have an event called Experience the Outdoors, and this summer one of the options is learning about doing a beehive. I signed up for that, not that I plan to do one, but it is very interesting.
Yes, I would love to have bees. It's a hobby that requires quite a bit of attention, and I don't have an excess amount of time to be able to give to beekeeping, so maybe when life slows down just a little bit more, I'll be able to start some bees.
Yeah, neat. Elizabeth, could you describe your family to me?
Yes, I'm a 53-year-old mom of two kids. I have a daughter, 21, and I have a son, 19, and then I'm involved with a really great guy, and he has three children. He's got twin boys that are 20 years old, and he's got a daughter that's 26, and he is extremely supportive of my quilting. Matter of fact, he helps me out with a lot of the quilt projects that I have, and he goes shopping with me, and he's the one who's encouraging me to get a long arm machine. But my kids have been around me and been the recipients of many of the quilts that I've made.
You said he encourages you. So does he go to the store with you?
He does. He goes and he picks out fabric. He picks out jelly rolls. Like I said, he's trying to encourage me to get a long arm machine to do my own quilting. He has set up a large portion of our home so that I would have a really awesome sewing area. But yeah, he goes everywhere with me shopping for fabric or batting or backing or anything that I need.
That's great.
He surprised me just this past fall. Woke up one morning and said, today we're going to pack your bags. Today we're going up to Paducah, Kentucky to the quilt show, the AQS quilt show. And we went up and went there for half of the day, stayed overnight, went back the next day. I was just completely surprised. That was so exciting.
How fun. Neat. Your kids are home or away?
Now, while they're grown, my daughter is attending college. This is her last semester before she graduates with her bachelor's degree, and my son is living with his dad, and he is at a technical college where he's learning collision repair, so he's having a great time with that. But now they're both right around here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're close by.
Mhm.
The rest of my family is all still in Maine, except for my brother. He's in North Carolina. I have 3 sisters in Maine, and my mom's in Florida. But so I return back to Maine, try to at least once every year to visit family.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
And you mentioned you work at Walmart.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy your job?
I do. It's kind of unusual. I work at the in the auto care center at Walmart. I'm the service writer. So I'm the one sitting at the counter greeting everyone when they come in wanting to have their vehicle worked on.
Nice.
Yeah, and I work with the stock in the automotive department, and I enjoy it. They're really good to me. They work my schedule around my needs, and my needs include my sewing. So they're really good about my schedule. I do enjoy it, and I enjoy the working with the public.
Yeah.
It's my retirement job. I worked 15 years in the school system. This is now my retirement job.
Oh, cool. What did you do for the school?
I was a educational assistant in special ed.
Oh, that's so needed.
Mhm.
Besides quilting, are there other crafts or hobbies you have?
Oh gosh, my mom taught me how to sew when I was 13, and she probably about 20 years ago she taught me also how to knit, and I knitted sweaters. And once I completed about 3 or 4 sweaters, I just lost interest. I know how to knit. I self-taught myself how to crochet. When I was younger, I used to do a lot of cross stitch. Gosh, there's probably not a craft I haven't tried, but I still like crocheting. But again, it's a time thing. At the time I get done with my day and it's 10 o'clock at night, I don't pick up crocheting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But oh gosh, no, there's lots of things I like to do. I like to paint. I would love to do ceramics. I'd like to try anything. I'm pretty artistic, but I don't have the time.
Yeah. My husband and I keep teasing. We're trying to figure out what we want to do when we grow up.
That's exactly right. What do I want to be when I get older?
So who introduced you to quilting?
Nobody really introduced me to quilting. Like I said, my mom had taught me how to sew when I was 13. I helped her make, I'll never forget it, as long as I live, I helped her make peach corduroy dresses for my older sister's wedding when I was 13. And that's when I learned how to sew. But then it was, gosh, probably about 22 years ago, I was doing cross-stitch patterns that resembled quilts. And I thought, I'd love to learn or teach myself how to make a quilt. So I did that. I made some really, really simple pattern quilts. And then I made clothing quilts for each one of my children. I think it really started from there. Once I made their quilts for them, then I started doing more. I showed people my pictures of the quilts that I made for my kids, and I began getting questions of, can you make one for me? If I give you shirts, can you make a t-shirt quilt for me? So and then it went from there, and it just has grown. It's gotten more complex, and I just made so many quilts. So I wouldn't say any person introduced me to quilting. It's just struck an interest with me to go along with the sewing that I did.
So are you in a quilt guild or group now?
I'm not. No. I know it sounds lame, the time thing. Just between my work and sewing. I sew for the public. I make between probably 40 and 50 quilts a year.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and the majority of all of them are t-shirt quilts or clothing quilts. And I have 10 or 12 going at all times. So when I'm out on a day like today, because I'm heading to a quilt shop and we're going to go do some sightseeing, some riding around, and we collect Hot Wheels cars also, so we're always on the lookout for Hot Wheels. And I'm not at home working on the quilts when I need to be. But I don't have time for myself to make quilts for me or for my family members. But it's a time thing. I don't want to obligate myself or sign up for a quilt guild and then not be able to show up. I would not be happy with that.
Yeah.
I would love to, but I just feel like I wouldn't be able to make it to structured meetings.
Right.
Mhm.
Do you have a favorite quilt, either pattern that you like to use or a favorite quilt that you have made?
Well, my favorite quilt block is the log cabin. So many different ways that a log cabin can be laid out to change the look of the quilt, I think is what strikes me. That's why I like it so much. You can change the blocks around and you change the entire look of the quilt. And I made one for my daughter. She is a history buff, and I made one for her years ago that was made with Civil War reproduction fabrics. And I love that quilt. I love how that one came out. She loves it. It was all, like I said, Civil War reproduction fabric. But I have another favorite quilt that I use still on a daily basis, and there's a tag on it that said it was given to my grandmother from her grandmother in 1931.
Oh,
so it's a quilt that goes back to my great-great-grandmother. So I keep thinking 11 more years, that thing will be 100 years old, and I'm still using it every day.
Nice.
That's such a cherished possession. That's my absolute favorite. But as far as a pattern and one that I've made, I would have to say it would be the Civil War log cabin quilt I made for my daughter.
Neat.
Mhm.
How about a tool that you use in quilting?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't think that there's any one specific tool. I struggle with the rotary cutters every day. Like I said, I make between 40 and 50 quilts a year for people, so I am constantly changing the blades on my rotary cutter, and I never seem satisfied with any one brand or blade that I use. The ruler, I like my acrylic ruler. I think the best tip that I got from someone who's more experienced in quilting was putting the dumbbell, the hand weight, on the acrylic ruler before you cut. It keeps it absolutely still. So I have a little 5-pound dumbbell that I set down on the acrylic. So that's probably my favorite thing to make sure that I use when I'm cutting fabric. It does it. It holds it perfectly still while you're trying to cut a strip of fabric.
That's a great tip. But we'll see if you give the same tip at the end here. Out of the whole process, do you like one part better than the other, or you like everything?
I like everything, but I would have to say the designing part of it is my favorite. Like I said, laying out all the different log cabin blocks. I love the part of trying to decide where everything's going to go and how it's going to look. And once the quilt is finished and it's got either the sashing in between each block, or if the customer decides that they don't want the sashing, just each T-shirt piece, touching each T-shirt, the laying out, the design of it, I guess, is what I enjoy most. Of course, the whole process to me is fun. I love sewing. I send my quilts off to a quilt lady. She does a machine quilt for me, and I get it back from her, and I trim it, and then I do the binding. So then once it's all completely finished, I lay it out on the floor. I take a picture, and here's another one.
Do you have a way to catalog your quilts?
Oh, gosh, no. No, I keep track of my appointments because I also do alterations. I work on bridesmaids' dresses, wedding dresses, prom dresses, that sort of thing. I'll replace zippers for people. I'll hem pants. So I have a record of appointments, but as far as cataloging or keeping track of the quilts that I've made, they're pretty much all on my cell phone pictures, all on something like Google Photos or somewhere. I have pictures of every quilt I've made, just about.
Yeah.
Mhm. I want to put them all together, say in one picture album somehow, some way, not necessarily in a physical picture, but in some sort of photo file on my phone or on the internet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was your worst quilting experience?
Oh, I was discussing that. While we were out riding around today, we were going over the questions, and I could think of two that were the worst thing. Like I said, when I made the two clothing quilts, I made quilts for my children from their baby bibs, from their onesies, from their little T-shirts that people brought them while they were on vacation, pajamas. Their quilts are from their baby clothes. And when I was showing them around and bragging about the quilts that I made from my pictures, I had a woman ask me, could you please make one for me? And I thought, sure, I made my kids one. I can make her kid one. And so she gave me all the shirts, and here, this is my first official customer for a T-shirt quilt. And I'll never forget it because her son went to the Little League World Series, and she included both of his jerseys. And I refused to cut those. I said, I'm not cutting those. That's a once-in-a-lifetime thing for a kid. I'll use all of his T-shirts otherwise. When I made it and laid it all out, put it together, I recall making mistakes. So I know that there was some really bad sewn puckers in the top of that quilt. I've asked her since, can I have it back? She said, no, I like it the way that it is. I just know. I know that quilt is sitting there at her house with the worst-looking puckers in it you've ever seen. And then I did the same for my sister. I had a quilt top that was a family heirloom, and I told her I would finish it for her. I would hand quilt it. That was my one and only attempt at hand quilting, and it was the ugliest thing ever created. So she said the same thing. I said, please send it back to me so I can fix it. Now she said, no, I like it the way that it is. And oh my gosh. Please let me fix it. Either that or don't tell anybody I made it.
Obviously, they don't see mistakes at all. They just
no. I guess they don't see the errors that I see.
Yeah. Do you know why you make quilts, and who do you make them for?
Oh, gosh. The majority of the quilts that I make now, like I said, are for customers who want T-shirt quilts made. All of my quilts that I make for people, for the most part, that live near me, word of mouth, someone will want one made, or they'll know that I make them and they want me to make one. I have to say probably 60 to 70% of the quilts that I have made just in the last 10 years are actually memorial quilts. And that means so much to me. For people that have passed away, I made one for a little boy for a mother of a little boy who was 5 years old when he died of cancer. And I made a quilt from his clothing for the mom. And then there was another boy that was about 18 years old when he died. I made a quilt from his clothes for his mom. I made a quilted wall hanging in the shape of a police badge made from a woman's husband's police shirts. He was a Nashville Metro police officer.
Wow.
And I had made three quilts for her grandsons, and then she wanted a wall hanging, and she wanted hers in the shape of a police badge. So that's the whole thing. That was kind of creative. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't even know how you go about that.
Well, I drew it first on a piece of paper.
Uh-huh.
And then, I drew a half of it. I folded the paper in half, and I drew a half of it, kind of like you used to do when you were in elementary school for a heart.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then I opened it up, and it was, of course, exactly even on both sides.
Yeah.
And the size worked out perfect. It was about poster size, big poster size.
Neat.
Mm-hmm. Wall hanging itself is all just squares. So then I laid the pattern down on the squares and just cut it into the shape of the police badge.
Huh. So creative.
That was her idea. I just brought it to life.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of memorial quilts. I love the quilts that I can make for people, from clothes from people who may have passed away, family members, grandmothers, mothers. It's rather than having their clothes sitting in a plastic tub somewhere in the house, put them into a quilt and you can look at it every day. To me, that's just is so much more sentimental than, just having them sit around. But that's probably the largest majority of the quilts I've done lately. But a lot of them also are quilts that are for the kids for school, like they're graduating from high school, and here's all their T-shirts that they had for school groups or sports and activities, vacations, that sort of thing. Just a way to be able to keep all the shirts from their school memories and put it into use. You put it in a quilt instead of in a plastic tub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a tip that you would give to other quilters?
Oh, gosh, just enjoy doing what you do. It really doesn't matter if it makes you happy, if it's a quilt that you've made, and I really don't know. Just do it the way that you want to do it. It's your own personal creation, so just do it the way that you want it, and if that's the way that you like it, that's yours. Just, like I said, do it the way that would make you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, unless it's a quilt like I have that I'm making for somebody, then I use the colors that they want or the style that they want, and that's fine. I make it the way that they want it.
Right.
When it comes time to make a quilt that I want, I'll make it the way I like it.
So do you have a favorite color palette you like to work with?
Oh gosh, yeah, the royal blue and the aquas and turquoise. I like jewel tones, like sapphires and emerald colors, violet, purple. I like the bold jewel colors, jewel tones. I especially like batiks in jewel tones.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are so pretty, so bold.
Is there anything you want to share with me that you would want others to know about you?
Oh gosh. No, I mean it really makes me happy to be able to make these quilts for people because I know it makes them happy. I always say if I give someone a quilt and it makes them cry, then I've done my job. I made one just recently that had neckties for a woman whose husband passed away, and she cried, and I said that makes me happy because that means that I did a good job and she likes it, and it creates memories for her that's what the intention was.
Well, thank you so much. This was great to get to know you a little bit.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of A Quilter's Life. You can find more stories on thequilterslife.com or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts so each episode will be downloaded automatically. Thanks for listening.